The Stanford Prison Experiment is one of the most controversial and striking experiments in psychology. This experiment vividly demonstrates how human behavior can change under certain conditions and the effects of power dynamics on individuals. Let's delve into the details of this experiment and then explore its psychological implications together. The Stanford Prison Experiment was conducted in 1971 by Dr. Philip Zimbardo at Stanford University. The goal of the experiment was to investigate the effects of a prison environment on human behavior. So, how did the experiment begin? 24 male university students were randomly assigned to be either guards or prisoners. These students were normal, healthy individuals with no criminal background. The location for the experiment was a mock prison set up in the basement of Stanford University's psychology building. The guards were equipped with uniforms, sunglasses, and batons to symbolize authority. The prisoners, on the other hand, were given uniforms with ID numbers and were referred to by these numbers instead of their names. The experiment aimed to observe how the guards would use their authority over the prisoners and how the prisoners would react to this treatment. Initially, everything seemed under control, but soon things started to spiral out of control. The guards began to abuse their power, becoming increasingly cruel and abusive towards the prisoners. They started to insult, demean, and psychologically torture the prisoners. The prisoners, in turn, became increasingly helpless and rebellious under this pressure. In the early days of the experiment, the guards were merely observing the prisoners and trying to discipline them with minor rules. However, over time, the guards' attitudes hardened and they began to exhibit violent behavior. The prisoners were punished whenever they did not comply with the guards' orders, and these punishments became progressively harsher. On the third day of the experiment, a rebellion broke out among the prisoners. The guards responded to this rebellion by taking even harsher measures. They punished the prisoners by stripping them naked, chaining them to their beds, and depriving them of food. Some prisoners could not withstand this pressure and had nervous breakdowns, forcing them to be removed from the experiment. The experiment, which was planned to last much longer, was terminated after only 6 days. Dr. Zimbardo realized that the situation had gotten out of control and that the participants were suffering severe psychological harm, prompting him to end the experiment. So, what does the Stanford Prison Experiment teach us? This experiment reveals how human behavior is profoundly influenced by social roles and power dynamics. Even normal, healthy individuals can become cruel and sadistic when given authority. Similarly, those subjected to this authority can exhibit responses such as helplessness and submission. One of the most significant psychological findings of this experiment is how social roles and expectations can deeply influence individuals' behavior. The participants who assumed the role of guards quickly began to display behaviors required by this role. This can be explained by the concept of role theory in social psychology. Role theory suggests that individuals act in accordance with the social roles they occupy and the expectations arising from these roles. The participants who took on the role of guards misused their authority, believing they were fulfilling the requirements of their role. Another important concept is de-individuation, which refers to the loss of self-awareness and individuality. The guards, stripped of their identities through uniforms and sunglasses, lost themselves in the group identity. This led them to exhibit cruel behaviors they would not normally display. De-individuation is a state in which individuals gain anonymity and as a result may engage in behaviors they would typically consider unethical. The Stanford Prison Experiment also highlights the powerful impact of situational factors on human behavior. People's actions are shaped not only by their personality traits, but also by their environment and circumstances. In this experiment, the cruel behavior of the guards stemmed from adopting an authoritarian role and the power dynamics associated with it. The results of the experiment resonated widely, not only in psychology, but also across various segments of society. The effects of prison conditions on human psychology became more clearly understood through this experiment. Additionally, important insights were gained for other social settings with pronounced authority, such as military training camps, school environments, and workplaces. The Stanford Prison Experiment has also sparked significant ethical debates. The psychological stress and trauma experienced by the participants have led many to question whether the experiment was ethically conducted. This experiment underscores the importance of ethical guidelines and participants' rights in psychological research. Today, it would be impossible to replicate such experiments due to ethical considerations and participants' rights. However, the Stanford Prison Experiment remains a pivotal point in psychology, still attracting great interest. When we delve deeper into the psychological interpretations of the experiment, we encounter many important concepts and theories. One of these is the concept of obedience to authority. Stanley Milgram's famous obedience experiments demonstrated how obedient people could be to authority figures. Similarly, the Stanford Prison Experiment showcases the powerful influence of authority on individuals. The guards used the authority given to them to control the prisoners and applied this control in a cruel manner. Another crucial concept is group dynamics. The guards and prisoners in the experiment began to behave according to their group's norms and expectations. The guards, acting as a group, became more cruel, while the prisoners started to rebel and resist as a group. This highlights the influence of group dynamics on individual behavior. Additionally, the theory of cognitive dissonance plays an important role in interpreting this experiment. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort experienced when individuals hold conflicting beliefs, values, or behaviors. The guards experienced cognitive dissonance and rationalized their cruel behavior by convincing themselves that the prisoners deserved these punishments. The Stanford Prison Experiment offers many valuable lessons from a psychological perspective. Concepts such as social roles, obedience to authority, group dynamics, and cognitive dissonance help us understand the experiment's results. This experiment starkly reveals the darker aspects of human nature and how we can change under certain conditions. In conclusion, the Stanford Prison Experiment is one of the most important and controversial experiments in psychology. It demonstrates how human behavior is shaped by social roles, authority, and group dynamics. The experiment's results have resonated widely, not only in academic circles, but also in various segments of society. However, the ethical debates it has sparked cannot be overlooked. Today, the Stanford Prison Experiment is remembered as a crucial turning point in psychological research, emphasizing the importance of ethical guidelines and participants' rights. Returning to the experiment's results, we better understand how human behavior is shaped by social roles and expectations. This is also true in everyday life. For example, a police officer, when in uniform and on duty, acts according to the expectations of this role. Similarly, a student behaves according to the expectations of their teachers and peers at school. This demonstrates the powerful influence of social roles and expectations on individuals' behavior. Another significant outcome of the experiment is the impact of authority on human behavior. Authority figures can exert a significant influence on individuals due to the power they hold. This is true not only between guards and prisoners, but also in workplaces, schools, and even within families. Authority figures can have positive or negative outcomes depending on how they use their power. The Stanford Prison Experiment also shows how group dynamics shape individual behavior. People tend to act according to the norms and expectations of the groups they belong to. This can lead to conflicts and even violence between groups. For example, fights between fan groups at football matches result from group dynamics. People act as part of their group and exhibit behaviors that align with the group's norms. The ethical debates sparked by the experiment further underscore the importance of ethical guidelines in psychological research. The psychological stress and trauma experienced by the participants have made it ethically impossible to replicate such experiments. Today, psychological research is conducted with great care for ethical guidelines and participants' rights. The Stanford Prison Experiment starkly reveals the darker aspects of human nature and how we can change under certain conditions. This experiment demonstrates the powerful influence of concepts such as social roles, authority, and group dynamics on individual behavior. It also emphasizes the importance of ethical guidelines and participants' rights in psychological research. Today, the Stanford Prison Experiment is remembered as a crucial turning point in psychology, offering valuable lessons for understanding human behavior. See you in the next video. Take care.